The last time we met, we had left the public hearing open. I would entertain a motion to maintain the openness of the public hearing.
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So the hearing is open, and we have an opportunity to hear from anybody who wishes to speak. We also need to keep the hearing open because it is possible that Mr. Caffrey or his attorney at our next meeting will wish to speak to the issues anyhow. Okay.
Well, can we discuss it?
If you wish, David.
Yeah, well, I went up there today and I looked at that and, how many rooms, how many bedrooms are there in the upper part already?
What we, actually, if I may, Mr. Chairman, there was a question during the initial presentation last month about the existing number of bedrooms and this one additional proposed bedroom. And we needed to have the facts straight to make a proper decision. So what we have is, the applicant came in, amended the application and initialed the following, says that 6 bedrooms are existing, and this would be a 7th bedroom, which is at issue in this determination.
That isn't what this shows.
Right.
This shows 3 more bedrooms
Well, probably.
in the basement.
In the basement, yes,
This
that's,
shows 3 more bedrooms.
well, that doesn't exist though, that's the permit that was denied, and is at
Well,
issue.
we're already building.
Now, what he's got is one bedroom downstairs.
That's not actually a bedroom, but it's technically an office
It,
with partition, forgive me for interrupting.
Sure.
It just, what it is he's placed partition walls, which are not regulated as such by the state building code or any of our local regulations. So they don't go to the ceiling, they provide some privacy within a larger room. I think you get the intent is to do what he applied for, which was denied by the building inspector.
So, well, explain to me what this is. Is this 3 bedrooms? That's what it says on there.
May I say?
Looks like 3 bedrooms to me. But the walls are separate.
This is what's confusing to me. And they are building stuff over there.
What did you see?
There's a bathroom in there, there's a kitchen.
Yes, well, actually, the only thing that wasn't approved was this area here was sought to be used as a bedroom.
Yeah.
And there are actually 5 building permit applications, and I'm trying to recall each one. This is the area where there are already partition walls as if it's being arranged for the setup that was denied by the building inspector.
Okay.
And this, I believe, is I'm sorry, yes, that's an open building permit. Okay, first there was the addition, first there was the so-called addition, which is essentially larger than the original home.
The upstairs.
Yeah, so there was a building permit and a CO for that. Then there was an application that was denied by the building inspector. That's the subject of our, and then there was another building permit for everything but the bedroom that wasn't approved because that would trigger a parking arrangement that would need to undergo review by the planning board. Because at that point, you're talking about enough cars that our code instructs.
Okay, well, explain to me what the code is. Is it 1 parking space per bedroom?
Let's see, I have to refer to the,
You have to go look at the code.
Yeah.
There are a number of configurations that can trigger something that has to go to the planning board.
it's 4 or more spaces that triggers it. Now, the building inspector did a calculation, I don't have it in front of me. But it's 4 or more cars that is the minimum parking that must be provided.
Everybody that has a bedroom is gonna have a car.
Yes, I understand, and actually there is Well, there is a proposal before the village board that would actually increase the amount of parking for homes, and then at a certain point above, I think, 3 bedrooms, we're proposing to increase that by 1 car in each case, which in a way is too bad for those folks that move into town that don't need that much space for that many cars, but this is where we're at, I suppose.
Yeah, because these are rental houses for students, and every student has a car. I've yet to see, and believe me, I live surrounded by them, I've yet to see a rental house that doesn't have at least 1 car for every student.
Okay.
That's
The
a
answer to the question about the parking, I'm not clear how many bedrooms he is claiming are in the house right now.
He amended his application and initialed it to say that it's 6 bedrooms.
Currently 6 bedrooms.
Yes,
Okay,
with a 7th proposed.
so for detached, single family and 2 family structures, you need 2 spaces for the first 3, plus 1 space for each additional bedroom. So if he has 6, then you need 5 spaces. That surpasses the threshold of 4 that was in part of the denial of the building, that the building inspector wrote. So that threshold is met.
So, and he wants to add 1 more bedroom, which would add 1 more parking space, correct?
Yes.
Well, he wants to do it without having to go to the planning board.
Well, you know what I don't understand, so I don't understand why he just doesn't bulldoze into that hill and make more parking spaces and be done with it.
Well, you need.
Seeker wouldn't allow it.
Well, the planning board, in other words, our code calls this, I don't know about the history in the village, however, the code calls for where parking for 4 or more vehicles is required. That requires planning board review because, of course, it understandably, it involves enough maneuvering and enough parking of vehicles that they want to make sure, that the planning board wants to make sure it's done in the right way.
Right.
And that includes access for emergency vehicles as well as a surface. If it's not pavement, it has to be an acceptable surface. So it's already been done by way of wearing down, gravel, some regrading, but the point is that the planning board is supposed to oversee that and apply certain standards. So this has been done by the property owner himself as opposed to with approval by the planning board.
Well, the only way you can get, you can drive into that place. There's no way you can turn around in there. And so you have to back up. And if you're not paying attention, I almost did it.
You'll go
If
off,
you're not paying attention to where you're going,
there's an edge.
you're gonna go right off the edge. And luckily I said, wait a minute, something I couldn't see. And I saw the garbage cans, and I said, well, I'm gonna go up close to the garbage cans. So I don't, maybe this has nothing to do with what we have to decide on. But,
Well, it certainly is directly related to the need for planning board review.
yeah,
Ellen and Kurt and I met with Capri. We toured the property. I encountered the same experience you did when I was backing out. It looked to me like I didn't know where I was going if I took that path, so I took the other one. And then when I looked back, I was happy I had because I hadn't crashed my car.
yeah.
Now, there are several things. One, that we would want the planning board to see, and part of their review will involve the amount of slope that is on the existing parking area. The very elevated earthen mound behind and above the current parking area, the slope of that mound, and the possibility that with any kind of heavy rain, there would be erosion if not collapse. All of that, I think, enters into the need for review. The issue that we're referring, however, is not only the topography, but the issue of how many cars are being parked. And Mr. Caffrey told us that there is an overflow that parks on the road. And obviously, if there's an overflow, it's either because there are more of his tenants who have cars, or there are visitors, or both. So there is a real need for planning board review.
Is there a possibility that there can be action beyond planning board review, given what he has done there that has not been permitted? Stop work orders, some kind of enforcement measure?
A stop work order was issued when the addition, last summer when the addition was constructed. That matter was resolved and work continued. Right now there are no violations. Even the partition walls are something that are not regulated by the state building code, and that's precisely why they're there. In other words, they don't require a building permit. So in a way, the space is already being prepared for what is being asked of this board to allow this construction without planning board review of the parking. So there aren't any violations there currently, and
Even the pile of spoil or fill or whatever it is?
a notice of violation has been given out for that, even though that may be on the immediate adjacent property owned by the very same owner.
Mm-hmm.
So that No Place Like Home Development Corp. was given a notice of violation for that, and I'm told that they're going to remove the dirt at least down to 30 cubic yards, where if it is not construction and demolition debris or any trash mixed in, one is permitted to place up to 30 cubic yards of fill or grading or other activity without site plan approval, up to 30 cubic yards.
Can I get clear about the bedrooms? You said tell me again the bedroom part.
Which bedroom
Which part would you like?
You said that he is acknowledging 6 bedrooms?
The application was amended to say that there are 6 bedrooms existing and this would be a 7th. What is proposed down in the basement, in that particular area of the basement, would
Okay,
be a 7th.
could you just tell me which of the rooms in these 2 structures make up the 6 bedrooms? Because I'm not no matter how I count, I don't get 6. I get more or I get fewer.
That's it.
Well,
That's an allergy day.
It is that
There.
season. No, it is that season. Actually, I don't, to be honest with you, at this point, it would be helpful to have the building inspector here, because she is no longer with us, but she would be able to answer these things precisely. I don't know the layouts offhand for the house.
Sally?
I have a question. He is currently admitting that he has 6 bedrooms.
Yes.
I sent some of you, because I have everybody's email addresses, I talked with the assessor, and currently he is paying property tax on 5 bedrooms. And the only way that assessment can be changed is from the building department to inform the assessor there are 6 bedrooms.
That's true. Now, I don't know, my understanding is that in New York State, the assessment is based on whether it's a single family, perhaps a single family with an accessory unit, or a 2-family, multifamily.
No, she knew it was a landlord-student rental. And my point is that at least if we can't do anything else, we can protect somewhat the taxpayers of this community by having taxes properly paid on what is assessed. And the only way that assessment can be changed, you and I talked about this, is for the building department to inform her It is not 5 bedrooms, it is 6.
I can contact our assessor at town hall and
That's my
discuss that.
contribution.
I'll also be asking, is there, perhaps we found a way to assess beyond whether something has a certain state code, like the 200s might be a single family dwelling or a single family dwelling with an accessory apartment. Obviously now we have several single family or 2-family homes with almost unfathomable numbers of bedrooms. And I'd like to talk with the assessor as to, is there an avenue by which we can assess based on that, as opposed to a typical home that might have 3 or 4.
His previous caper down there at, what is it?
Chestnut, or,
Chestnut North Front.
yeah,
That would be interesting to look into that.
yeah, I believe in that structure too, they use the partition walls and, had a lot of bedrooms. I mean, there was a consistent problem with the dumpster sitting in the street for years. That is not the case right now.
No, they've got it all spilling over onto the sidewalk.
Oh, that's
because
right,
they've been
yes.
allowed to put it out at the front of the
They're
side
not
of the house.
supposed to be able to do that, it's gotta be in line with the house.
And it's gotta be fenced.
Yes.
And if
The
it's
dumpster
adjoining a residential district, can it even be a dumpster?
That's the question I thought I might attempt to touch upon. In other words, I really don't think it's appropriate for residential, single-family or 2-family neighborhoods to be, to have dumpsters around. That should not be necessary. If nothing else, and I understand that we have limited avenues to control these things. However, I would suggest several typical household garbage cans rather than dumpsters, in other words, recycling and regular waste.
But the flyer that went out for spring cleanup, on the back of it, it says what the code allows for dumpsters and what the code requires for dumpsters. So unless I misread it, we already have that code language in place.
You mean, are you referring to the enclosures and where you put them, or
And
whether?
where they can even, where dumpsters even can be. Because if I'm remembering correctly, one of the stipulations was that in any zone where there are dumpsters, they need to be enclosed.
Yes.
That's number one. But number two, if I read it correctly, there can't be dumpsters adjoining residential districts. Now, I may have misread that. But it's on the
Yes,
screen
in
paper.
section 21222, item B. In residential zoning districts, dumpsters are prohibited except for those properties with more than 10 residents.
So that would be that particular spot. And what he has.
But it also says in all zoning districts, dumpsters shall be enclosed to provide screening from the
Right.
public way and all adjoining properties. And the location of a dumpster enclosure shall comply with the setback regulations for each zoning district.
Holly Esposito, who's been promoted to municipal code enforcement officer, and I are going to basically do a sweep of the dumpster enclosures as far as the enclosures go in that section that Katie just read. We have a new building inspector starting on Thursday, and that will give Holly more time away from the office and more time in her new position in code enforcement. So that does need to be done, because that's something that all dumpsters must be enclosed according to our code, and I think there's some non-compliance out there. Obviously, we were striving for it with that bit of material.
They
So let me
don't
just
have
be
a
clear about the
dumpster now,
10.
though. They have,
As far, yeah.
they have trash cans, an inadequate number of trash cans that are always overflowing onto the sidewalk.
Well, and the other thing is
At
they're
North Front
kept,
and Chestnut?
yes, and they're kept very close to the sidewalk so that.
Which is not allowed either.
Yeah, I mean, they've gotta be back.
These
Aren't
are-
you just supposed to put the dumpster out on the day that it's collected?
The trash,
Yeah.
not the dumpster, trash.
I mean, the trash,
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's when you can have it where they have it,
but they have it out all the time.
yeah,
They don't have
Okay,
a dumpster,
so
they have trash.
if a residence has
we're way off.
10 people, it can have a dumpster.
Yes, and actually I have to say, I wasn't aware of that specific provision. So we, for better and for worse, we allow dumpsters in residential districts where there are 10 or more residents, which is, well,
But we don't,
Yeah, but it has to be
nothing
enclosed.
about enclosed.
it has to be enclosed,
And
but
you couldn't enclose it there. There's no way you could enclose that thing with the setbacks that are required.
He's overbuilt.
You know, I have another question. That house in the front, now is this, how many bedrooms are in that house in the front? How many bedrooms are in the new part?
I don't know how many bedrooms offhand. Again, typically in this case where we have an appeal of the building inspector's decision, the building inspector would be here to answer those questions. I don't know offhand. I've tried my best to catch up where I came in last summer on this, but I don't know offhand. But
Does he own that too?
well, these are the you mean the home that was added onto, right?
Well, the thing that was added onto, which isn't attached, is detached. I don't quite understand that, but I guess,
Is it a one-family or is it a two-family at this point?
It's a one family, and although typically additions are not to be bigger or even rival in the size of the original structure.
I'm sorry, and one other question, and I'll stop. Is it within the framework of a one-family house to have two kitchens?
No, not typically, no.
So if it's a one-family house and it has two kitchens, how
How
do
is it a
we
one-family house?
deal with that? How do we deal with that?
Actually, I don't know, because that permit was issued, I was here when the stop work order was issued on it, as work was sort of proceeding towards the larger plan, which I think we're all aware of in various forms,
Right.
for this property and the adjoining property in common ownership.
Because actually, at this rate, this one-family house is on the way to having three kitchens.
Well, the building plan that was denied included a bedroom, not an additional kitchen, but there are two kitchens. I don't have an answer for how they were approved. As far as this structure having three kitchens, well, I'm not aware of that. We don't have a building plan for that.
Okay, well, when Holly goes, I suggest that she look at and count the number of kitchens or, what's the word? Formed out kitchens.
Question, if the basement that he was talking about at the last hearing has no interior access, it has no interior access from the inside downstairs,
oh, no, I
Okay.
don't think so.
then how can you say it's a one-family house?
Actually, I really don't know. In other words, I wasn't, I don't know what else to say, except that I came on at the time
No,
when.
no, you all took the tour. You know what's there.
Right, but
Does it
it's,
have a staircase inside?
No.
No, there is no staircase
No.
Okay,
inside.
so-
The issue, I think one of the issues is how does the layout conform? Can the layout be defined by what the existing code says? Or are there contradictions there? There are definitely two kitchens.
No, that isn't my question.
Okay,
My question is, one-family house, whether it has a basement or no basement, okay, it is all connected within the interior. So if it's a one-family house and it has a refinished, remodeled, reconfigured basement
with its own entrance.
with its own entrance, which is exterior and no access from the interior, then it is not a one-family house.
Right, and that's
And if
what
it
I-
has, and it definitely has two kitchens,
Well, that's another question.
and it's safe to say that if it doesn't at this moment have three kitchens, it's well on its way to having three kitchens.
Okay.
Everything's there. You look in the window, you can see it.
I think in this case, I'd really like to have the building inspector here to answer these questions. I don't claim to have building inspector credentials, although I may be the department head.
No, but you understand the question.
I understand the question, I don't have the answers.
Okay,
Yeah,
And-
that's
nor,
fair.
nor
And
should
I
you
did,
have to.
I did call our building inspector just as I was asked to just make sure that the fire code or wherever the fire code would apply to the structure, that it was in keeping with that, and I was told yes.
Can you refer that question to the planning board, or isn't that a legitimate question?
The question of the
Of
arrangement.
whether it fits as currently configured the definition of a one-family house.
I'm looking forward to getting the advice of our new building inspector on that.
But I mean, can the ZBA refer that to the planning board as a question?
Well, I don't know, the planning board's not gonna have an answer, a certified building
Okay,
inspector
the
will have an
building
answer.
inspector.
Yeah, that's where we need to be with the building inspector.
I,
Sure do.
believe me, Kurt and I both know that.
One other point of
All right,
clarification, it's,
I would like to move us now.
okay.
At this point, I would entertain a motion to refer the parking situation at Mohonk 2 to the planning board for its review and advice.
So moved.
And seconded.
Is there any discussion?
Let's do it soon.
If I may, it's actually, well, it's a referral of the parking situation, but it's a referral of the appeal. In other words, it's the appeal itself. Their job is to provide their recommendation as to whether to uphold or not to uphold the building inspector's determination to deny the building permit. Their review of parking, depending on the determination of the ZBA, may come formally. But this is their recommendation as to whether to, again, we're required to refer every matter that didn't originate with the planning board and come to us via the planning board. We're required to refer it to the planning board simply for their advisory, their advice. And we'll place it on the agenda, but it'll be a recommendation as to whether to uphold the building inspector's decision. What may come after, depending on the decision of the ZBA, is an actual site plan review due to the need to park 4 or more vehicles.
Yes.
But the issue of whether or not the building inspector's decision is upheld rests with this board, not with the planning board.
That's true, Mr. Chairman. Our code has a blanket requirement, which is not uncommon in municipal codes, that says, and I'm using precise words now, variance or appeal. Basically, everything this board does would be referred for the advice of the planning board if they have advice of one sort or another.
Then we should amend the motion
Yes.
to read that we are voting to refer this appeal to the planning board for their advice.
Right.
Can you say that again?
We are voting to refer this appeal to the village planning board for their advice.
Okay, thank you.
So my question is, it should not have come to us to begin with.
This
No,
appeal?
No, it should
We're the
not.
appellate board.
I understand that. It should have gone to the planning board first. There wasn't a way to get it to where it should have gone first in the
Well,
process
thi-
of the building department.
Oh, I see.
Well, it's a little more complicated than that. It seems-
Even more complicated
Well,
than that?
yeah, it seems that this provision was not recognized. In other words, and that's how several of the larger developments that were called one-family or two-family homes, and more than one two-family or one-family home on a single lot, this provision was not recognized, and it was not invoked, and it was not, no referrals to the planning board were made under it. So yes, the answer is it should have gone there first, and once I had the opportunity to work with our building inspector, we discussed this,
Fix
and
this.
yeah, and a determination was made that this couldn't be approved without adhering to that feature of the code.
So in the future, we probably won't get this sort of thing. It'll go to the planning board first and then to us if it's not dealt with.
That's true.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Are you ready to vote?
Yes,
Did we have to second the motion?
Yes.
After it was amended?
yes.
I don't think we do have a second after it was amended.
Well,
Yeah, we had a second.
two of us.
Oh, then I'll.
Okay.
So I don't know who you put down as.
Right, but I
Maybe it
amended,
was Dave and Katie that
Yes, well,
seconded the first motion,
And
correct?
then Katie amended it.
and I made the amendment,
Right.
so,
Yes, it's an amended motion.
yes,
Okay.
okay.
So does the amended motion need to be seconded?
Mm-hmm.
So I second the amended motion.
Thank you.
Motion.
You're ready to vote.
Yes.
All in favor of the amended motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. So ordered. The hearing will remain open until June the 11th, which is our regular meeting, at 7 o'clock here in the Village Hall. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Before we do it, I
Oh.
have one more thing to add. I'm going to be distributing plans that were provided today that show the current parking arrangements. I don't know if they were directly requested, but it was requested that they be given to ZBA members as well as to planning board members who will be providing an advisory to the ZBA on this.
Do you have those with you now?
I do, yes, and also just also a handwritten note from the property owner reading, again, I believe he's attempting to respond to a question that came up last time. At the 2 Mohonk building, there are a total of 7 cars for the 2012-2013 school year. The 911 address for the property is 2 Mohonk Avenue. I wasn't aware that that was a question, but
That was my question,
That was,
because
okay.
on the application, it was unclear.
Yep.
There was a contradiction in the application, and my feeling was, right now, we all know about this, but we must think of people 20 years from now who will wonder what it was we actually approved.
well, that's very true. And actually, I wasn't sure if it was with the adjacent Pencil Hill. It's known as simply Pencil Hill, as opposed to
Yeah,
having
but I
the
want
same
it to be
number.
real
Yeah,
clear what property it is
right.
this applies to, because there might be confusion later on.
No, there could be, yes.
So
So
there
say
was
again the
confusion
address.
about the mailing
Mohonk
address.
Avenue went over.
Yes, and so we want to be very precise
So-
about what the property is upon which we are actually making a decision.
2 Mohonk refers to what?
The subject
that's
prop-
there.
The property that's the subject of this appeal.
So the
You
both
want them to?
boxes of
I
the
think
2
it refers
Mohonk.
to Elaine Kolich's old house
Yes.
and the addition on it, that those two have the 911 address of, I mean, they're actually one because there's a little connector.
Well, yeah, that's a question that I have. How can it be called an addition when it's not up against the other building?
That's something I didn't have an opportunity to be a part of in the review before, and I will in the future. But I
mean,
can't,
is it called an addition because there's that breezeway between them?
yes,
I don't see that that's legitimate.
Well,
And-
it's happened. There's nothing we can do about it. And
The-
when we talk about 2 Mohonk Avenue, we are talking about
Both of them
That-
structures.
Yes.
as it is, which,
So we're no longer talking about Pencil Hill.
no. I'm sorry, Kurt.
no, that's it, yeah. Okay, so, anyway, I'll provide a plan to each of you.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't have my application in front of me, but there were several, is this the application?
This is, yes, and it was amended today with just merely
Yeah.
that adjustment in those initials.
So do we get copies of the amended application? Do we?
Yes, I can certainly provide that.
Yeah. Now, there was something where they had, maybe it was in the secret part of it, but anyway, there was something where there was a second address. And,
Yes.
That was the pencil address.
Yes.
yes,
That
and I
last
thought
month.
that, you know, let's be clear
Mhm.
Yep.
about what we're talking about.
Last month, you asked that very
That's right,
question,
yeah.
And he said, there are 2 addresses, and you said, what is the legal proper address?
Yes, what does 911 respond to? And so that's the legal proper address. I mean, we might be giving a variance to something without even intending to, if we don't know what address we're using.
And guess what? It could happen.
Yeah, Yeah, that's what happens in that place.
I mean, I don't know, it's just better to, you know, dot your i's and cross your t's, and why not use the right address?
Well, if it's an addition on the house, it should be the same address.
Yes.
May I ask the question I started to ask before, a generic question? Is it in all zones, all districts in the village, that an accessory apartment is allowed only in an owner-occupied situation?
Yes.
That's my understanding, yeah.
Okay,
I mean, in the districts that I've dealt with so far where that subject has come up, yes.
okay.
I don't understand why it's anybody's,
You have to withdraw your motion to adjourn because you aren't adjourned.
Well, have we voted on the motion to adjourn?
No, just moved and seconded.
Okay, let's vote on it. All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
I think that's
Aye.
Opposed, like sign? We are adjourned. If you want to stay and talk, stay and talk.
I don't know that we can legally do that.
stay and talk?
I don't think as a board we can
No, we
stand
can't.
up. I think we have to.